What's up, everybody? You're listening to Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name. And my name is Alex Worldwide Keller. And now you know Wrestling Cheers Worldwide.
Taking your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You want to go where you can see that troubles are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows your name. You want to go where you can see that troubles are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows your name.
And welcome back to Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name, especially there's your boy. And we are brought to you by the Trending Topics Network and NEO Sports Insider's Wrestling Cheers, where we review shows, preview shows, and sometimes we even have interviews, all based upon the Northeast Ohio independent wrestling scene. Please head on over to Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, or Spotify, or Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com, and rate, review, and subscribe to us. You can find us on all your social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Facebook.com/WrestlingCheers, Twitter.com/WrestlingCheers, and Instagram.com/WrestlingCheers. Email, if you so choose to desire, WrestlingCheers@gmail.com. And we have a merch store over at whatamaneuver.net. Head on over there and get yourself some merch for us. Get some t-shirts or some tank top, all that kind of fun stuff. And if you forget these links, instead of coming back here, you know, they're in the podcast notes in the description for the episode. And if you are listening on, I know, at least iTunes or Podbean, they're hyperlinked, so you click on them and go right to it. Anyway, we have to go over the preview for this Friday. This is your second episode of the week. Episodes of Wrestling Cheers in 1 week, and this one's pretty special. We have the JT Lightning Invitational Tournament, the JLIT 2018, Friday and Saturday, May 25th, 7:30 bell time for both shows, both also obviously at Our Lady of Mount Carmel, 1355 West 70th Street, Cleveland, Ohio. This is a 24-man tournament, a 24-person tournament. We do have interspecies inside this particular event, so go over really quick on all the entrants that are going to be in this. Entrant number 1, Grell. Entrant number 2, Little Guido. Entrant number 3, Malcolm Jacob Friedman. Entrant number 4, Jody Fleisch. Entrant number 5, All Ego and Page. Entrant number 6, The Bad Boy, Joey Janela. Entrant number 7, Dominic Garrini. Number 8, Frank Flynn. Entrant number 9, Gringo Loco. Entrant number 10, Louis Linden. Entrant number 11, Matthew Just. Entrant 12, Filthy Tom Lawler. Entrant number 13, Tim Donst. 14, AJ Gray. Entrant number 15, Colin Delaney. Entrant number 16, Josh Prohibition. Entrant number 17, Space Monkey. Entrant number 18, Cheech. Entrant number 19, Magnum CK. Entrant number 20, Laredo Kid. Entrant number 21, Hot Sauce Tracy Williams. Entrant number 22, Andrew Everett. Entrant number 23, Swaggle. And entrant number 24, Marty Jannetty. Now, the original entrant number 22 was Facade, but he was offered some sort of international tour once again, so he was granted to bow out, and Andrew was the one to take place. And there's also a Night 2 matchup for the absolute title, Nick Gage versus Colt Cabana. Now, here are your matchups for Night 1. Andrew Everett versus Jody Fleisch. Magnum CK versus Swaggle. Cheech versus Colin Delaney. Tim Donst versus Gangrel. Gringo Loco versus Laredo Kid. Marty Jannetty versus The Bad Boy, Joey Janela. AJ Gray versus Hot Sauce Tracy Williams. Josh Prohibition versus Little Guido. All Ego Ethan Page versus Matthew Just. Filthy Tom Lawler versus Frankie Flynn. Louis Linden versus, I've never noticed this on the particular graphic that I have. I gotta double check if this has been fixed, but the graphic is Louis Linden versus Dominic Garrini, but it's it's written out Louis Linden versus Frankie Flynn. MJF versus Space Monkey, and that is it. And the brackets are in these thirds, and this is how the episode's going to go. Is the first third, I'm going to be joined by Frankie Flynn. Second third, I'm going to be joined by Malcolm. I don't know why I about said that, but Magnum CK. And the third of the bracket, I will be joined in by Dominic Garrini. And pretty sure we're going to throw in that day 2 match inside of that one. And it's going to work somewhat perfectly. In the first third, Frankie Flynn is in it, so he'll be talking about his match. In the second third, Magnum CK is in it, so he'll be talking about his match. Dominic Garrini, though, he is in the first third, so we will sprinkle a little bit about his match into his third. So, going to be a long episode, so strap in, have some fun, because we have a very long night ahead. Or at least evening, afternoon, whatever. If you're listening to us on the way to Our Lady of Mount Carmel, great. JLIT weekend is upon us. So, you've already heard. If you haven't already, also too, like I said, I released 2 episodes this week. The first episode is of the Chandler Biggins Memorial Tag Team Tournament. And you know what? We're going to go to the Weird World, which Weird Body, Evan Adams, was on that episode, but they recently released a promo talking about the opponents. So, hey, let's hear what they had to say, and then after that, we'll be back with Frankie Flynn.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dr. Daniel C. Rockingham. Using dedication, confidence, and respect, you have used great judgment in listening to Wrestling Cheers.
Here we are, Weird Body. We're here. We're here. But you know what's about to be going down? Everyone's talking about it all around town. That's right. It's JLIT. But we're not worried about JLIT.
No, dude, we're not singles competitors.
We got a little something for you people because we're a tag team, and we got a little bit of a tag team tourney going down Saturday, May 26th, 3 p.m., Our Lady Mount Carmel. And we got a little presentation to give to you. Spared no expense on this. We're going to bring somebody over here. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause. Friend of Eddie Kingston, Pete. That's right. Here we are.
This is my friend Pete.
It's the Biggins Cup, ladies and gentlemen, the Biggins Cup. Now, if we can just move it on along here. Who do we got in the Biggins Cup?
We have Party Never Ends. And with Party Never Ends, that's Big Twan Tucker. That's Party Parker Pierce. And they actually have one victory over the Weird World. One
Not
victory.
happy about that.
No. They caught us by surprise there. So we don't know who we're facing yet, but we really hope it is Twan and Party Parker Pierce, because we want that win back.
We want that win
need
back.
That win back.
And one more little thing about parties. This thing's happening Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
You know what that means? I'm not going to be able to go as hard at the after parties and the afters and the after parties on Friday night. And that's making me real mad.
Yeah, dude.
On to the next team.
Oh my gosh.
Duke Money. That's right. Mance Warner and Jock Sampson. And right there, that's the Duke. Now, you guys have been running around bedeviling the AIW faithful for a while now, but on top of being a better tag team than you and taking you pillar to post, left and right, balls to the wall,
Yeah.
I got these top secret documents right here. I'm talking tax plans, tax returns. I'm talking birth certificates. That's right. Someone from this team making a lot of towns over there in Canada. And you know what? Jock or Jacques? I think you're more worried about getting back into the U.S. than you are getting out of it. I said it. Duke Money. On to the next one.
Oh no. Oh, PME. Philly, Marino, experience. I mean, there are friends. There are buddies, even compatriots, I would
Good
say.
pals.
But as they learned at Ain't Nothing But a Gangster Party, 420, bro. When you get in the Weird World's way, you get rolled over. So if they get in our way again during this tournament, we're gonna have to roll them over.
Sorry, bro. Yo, Philly, no hard feelings about that acoustic guitar. I don't know, it kind of felt pretty hard to you, but you know, whatever. Water under the bridge, am I right?
Yeah.
On to the next one. No consequences. That's right. They got 2 teams this year. We got No Consequences with Gary the King Baller, Ballin, and Joshua Bishop. Joshua Bishop, you and me, we've had some run-ins before, and you know, I thought the most devilish evil thing that ever happened to me in this business was when Dr. Daniel C. Rockingham poisoned one of my Bud Lights and gave me botulistic freaking strep throat. But no, just the other week, in another company, different territory, Joshua Bishop, you tried to give me shingles. Well, let me tell you something, buddy. I am beautiful skin, head to toe, all good, all day, worldwide. On to the next one.
Oh my God.
Oh, another.
We got some consequences.
There
here.
are some consequences here. Hi, Chase.
Yeah, dude. We got Chase. What is his name? Oliver. Yeah, Chase Oliver. And we got
Gonna twist him
Trey
right up.
Lamario over here. So with them, really, they're young, they're dumb, and they just run their mouths. Really, no consequences, don't make no sense. Chase has learned it. He's been injured with his high-risk antics. And Trey, he kicked out MM3, so, like...
there are some consequences.
There are definitely some consequences.
There are 110% some consequences. On to the next one. The production and the team that they fielded, because they got Magnum CK and Frankie Flynn in that JLIT. Well, we got Dan Danhausen.
Yeah.
The name doesn't matter. He's their new mime. The new mime. Say hi to the new mime. Same as the old mime? Is that how the song goes? I don't know. And then we got Eddie Only. Speaking of songs, their roadie. He looks pretty cool. He does some cool shit, but they come up against us, it's going to be flattened out. 1, 2, 3, baby, all day. Who else we got?
Yeah.
Oh,
The Carnies. Listen.
This one's a doozy.
The Carnies, they're wrestlers who dress up as Carnies. I was a Carney. I know what it takes to work the midway. I know what it takes.
Work the marks.
Yeah, dude. And that's what these two are, really, to me. They've appropriated carnival culture to suit their own needs and sell it to wrestling fans. And that's disgusting to me. So if we run into them during the Biggins Cup, I'm going to show them how I really, really feel about that.
And finally, I spared no expense, ladies and gentlemen, on this presentation. Hired a graphic designer and everything, and this is the artist. This is the artist rendering of what the finish of this whole thing is going to be. There we are, Weird World winners. They're a very big fan of me. You're no slouch.
Hey, man.
But
we got fans everywhere.
Here's the thing. Saturday afternoon, when we take their cup, I'm going to pour several beers into it. Slam them. I mean, hell. If we get a tag team title opportunity out of this, that's amazing. But truth told, I might not fucking survive the after partying after we win this boy, because I'm going to be all pent up from Friday night, and we're going to take it worldwide.
Weird body.
Weird World.
What's up, everybody? This is Excellence Personified, Brian Carson, and you are listening to the most excellent podcast in the world of professional wrestling, indie wrestling, any kind of wrestling. Doesn't matter. Wrestling Cheers, baby.
We're back on the podcast, part 1 of 3 of the JLIT preview. So we're going to be talking about the first part of the bracket, the first third, and we are joined by someone who is actually in this bracket. It is none other than the Prince of Broadway, the leader of the production, the leading man. No, I'm thinking that might be wrong, but we have Frankie Flynn.
It's the new lead.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's also the Bard.
The Bard, yeah. We have the soundbite, so I was in my head playing it, and I knew there was something about a lead. And then right after I said it and you were about to talk, I'm like, the new lead. I heard it like perfectly from the soundbite. So, how's it going, Frankie?
It's going great, actually, It's training. My match was announced yesterday. It's real nice. People telling me that I'm going to die, but they said that when I faced Kingston, so I'm still here.
I mean, people said that when you went against PB, too.
Very true. Very true.
And you're obviously still standing.
Yeah.
So we have the 4 matches of your bracket. We have Guido and J-Pro, Hot Sauce and AJ Gray, Dominic Garrini and Lewis Linden, and then, of course, yourself versus Filthy Tom Lawler. Now, we'll save the best for last. We'll save your match for last because actually it is the 4th in the bracket, so it does make sense if we just go right down the line. But Guido and J-Pro. This I think is going to be a very interesting match, especially with, two veterans of wrestling. And then, of course, Guido has been a staple lately of the JLIT tournament.
Very true. This is going to be a great match. I'm looking forward to watching it. If I had to choose who's going to win, I'm probably thinking Old Man Josh is going over, but I don't know. It's going to be a great match.
I feel like Guido doesn't really disappoint at these JLIT weekends. I mean, he's not going to be your high flyer. He's not going to be your guy doing impressive stuff. But I don't know. Every year, when you see Guido, it's like, okay, we got Guido and J-Pro too. It's definitely going to be a brawl when it comes to these two.
With Guido, like I said, he's not really a high flyer. There's a reason that he's a Sicilian shooter. That's really what he sticks with. He sticks with brawling, getting him on the mat, and wrestling him.
And I think that the only question is that the after party that night is who's going to drink more, Guido or J-Pro.
I don't know. That's the tough one. I'd say Guido wins that one.
Yeah, Guido just seems to be that grizzled vet of that kind of stuff. I like almost every time I've seen him, this dude's had a drink in his hand. And I think especially with this weekend, a 2-day weekend, I mean, every day's 2-day weekend, but 2-day weekend event and 3 shows, especially there being tailgating part of day 2 that I believe is going to be starting at noon. So Guido is no stranger of showing up to tailgating. So yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend for Guido.
Yeah, definitely. Should be a fun weekend for everyone.
I mean, these weekends are always just so much fun. I feel like the JLIT weekend has turned into a WrestleMania weekend, even though it's not the big event of the year for AIW. I mean, that's obviously Absolution, but all the fun and everything, like people getting hotel rooms, whether they live close by or whether they're, coming in for the show. It's just truly a different experience. And in the past, this will be the second year in a row we've had someone officially get together tailgating and turn that into something. So I'm looking forward to this. And of course, too, especially it not being a school day, I've been told we're allowed to show up whenever we want to Our Lady of Mount Carmel. So
for the Saturday.
For the Saturday show, yes. Yes, Friday is still, it's a school day. Show up at 5 o'clock, no earlier. But Saturday is a open day. I mean, granted, I don't think people are going to be like camping out, showing up at 6 in the morning. But I think around 10, 11, you could possibly see people starting to show up, maybe starting their own tailgating. I know the official tailgate guys are talking about noon. So I don't know whether it's they're getting there at noon or they want food to be ready at noon. So we'll definitely see. But it's such a fun weekend.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And 2, before I forget, before you actually get to your match, this is your first official JLIT tournament.
That's correct. Yeah, this will be my 4th year. I debuted at JLIT weekend, but I have never been in an actual JLIT tournament.
Because you won the Back to the Future Cup. You debuted, yes. I think it was the year before that.
The year before that, I debuted at a G&O show.
That's right.
Then after that, won the Back to the Future Cup. The year after that, I returned after being out for 8 months. And now this year is the first official JLIT tournament that I'm a part of.
It was such the thing that I've said about the return that I loved. I never got to officially tell you on the show, but it was the fact that, you hit PB with the trophy at the Back to the Future Cup. And then as a part of day 2, you come out sporting a different look. Like if someone was going from DVD to DVD, this would make sense in a much bigger picture. But actually seeing it from one show and then a couple hours later, another show, to me, that was like, I've always loved when you see someone do some of the small things in wrestling, and that was one of the things like, oh, he's showing us a different side, he's showing us his personality, so he's looking different, and we're only talking about a matter of, hours, not days or weeks.
That's something I definitely, I would say, took from theater.
Yeah.
With costume changes and little tweaks about who you are that would kind of change the mindset of other people.
I don't know if this popped into my head, just like a random question. That's something I probably should save for. We'll have plenty of probably material for it, but I know we've talked about it, and it'll be the first time we mentioned it maybe as full here on the podcast that we are doing a interview with the production as a whole right after Absolution. So that'll be I think the first time anyone has ever sat down with you guys as a whole, maybe it's been one or two people here and there. I've seen, a couple podcasters, like I know Friends of the Show Kick Out of Two has had everybody on at one point, but this will be the first.
It's been, those were like individual.
Yeah. But this will be one full interview with the whole team, and I know I'm looking forward to that. But I don't know, when I was thinking of costume changes, I was like just trying to think of like other things that use costume changes, and to me I was like kind of wondering, were you a fan of, or are you a fan of the stage show that is Weird Al? Because he does shit like that. I mean, granted, a lot of times he's doing multiple costume changes for every single song. I think that's some of the best, performers out there. If they're concert wise, they're doing different things and giving you something. I know that's something that just popped into my head.
No, honestly, I haven't ever seen a stage performance of Weird Al. For me, it kind of goes back to like if it was a stage performance, it's a Michael Jackson performance in a way.
Yeah.
How he changes his outfits for specific songs and things of that nature. And it's just trying to indicate that there's different things about each area of that performance.
And I don't want to say that Weird Al's the only one. I know there's definitely other people that do it. I think a lot of your bigger acts do that, but my minimum experience of concerts, like that's the first one that popped in my mind. Let's move on to the next match, and we have Hot Sauce Tracy Williams versus AJ Gray. Now, AJ Gray is another guy who, this is his first official JLIT tournament, a guy who burst onto the scene last year at JLIT weekend, part of the Back to the Future Cup, and then an additional impromptu match at day 2. And, you got Hot Sauce, who I would think shouldn't need to be in this tournament. I mean, this is for a Money in the Bank style type scenario where he can cash in and get a title shot whenever he wants. This guy already has a title match, but I guess no one has ever seen anyone pull them off in the same year. So that's something I think could definitely happen. Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like Hot Sauce likes proving himself, and I feel like this is something that, when he puts himself in, it's kind of a way to prove himself that, he can still compete on that top level. And even though he has a title shot, if he loses that one, now he's got another one. It's a backup plan.
Yeah.
There's definitely nothing wrong with having a backup plan. But I definitely see him taking the win over AJ Gray. AJ Gray is a hard-hitting guy. He's young. He's up and coming. He's the only member of No Consequences that is a part of the JLIT tournament.
Yes.
But at the same time, I feel like his little inexperience might cost him some.
I realized I didn't really put a prediction down for the first one. Normally we do. This isn't like a different format, but I'll throw out my prediction for the first match. I think I'm going to go J Pro in the first one, and then the second one here with Hot Sauce and AJ Gray. Yeah, I think I originally picked Hot Sauce to win the JLIT tournament in January, and then he goes and wins the gauntlet for the gold, and I go, okay, my prediction's out the window. He's not going for both, but hey, he might very well do that, so I have to put him at least into the next round to have that going forward. Have you been in a match with Tracy Williams? Sometimes with all these, we've been between different promotions, but especially just all these AIW shows, sometimes you forget, even if it's a scramble match.
No, I the only match I've been in with him is Gauntlet for the Gold.
Yeah, that like counts to a certain extent, but I don't think that counts like.
Yeah,
that doesn't count to like, okay, you just went 10-15 minutes with him, and like how hard. Because I was wondering in between both of these, like who hits harder, like who would you or just not want to see into the next round. Because this is, if you were to advance, that would be a potential
like
four-way opponent. Yeah, like you're gonna, but that's a potential four-way opponent for you.
I feel like Tracy might hit a little harder, and I've already faced AJ. That's kind of the mindset with it. I faced him when we've done the production versus No Consequences, and we've won.
Multiple times.
I've pinned him, I think, twice during those.
Okay.
So for me, it would be Hot Sauce that I would want to see go into the Fatal 4-Way.
Then we move on to the next match, which definitely has one person you have to be somewhat familiar with, and that's Dominic Garrini versus Louis Linden. And I think it's really interesting to have, just within the same third of the bracket, you have Dominic Garrini, but you also have Filthy Tom Lawler. And what games these two are going to play, whether it be in the first round or second round, preventing each other from getting into the second round, we'll definitely see how that plays out. But, Dom has been, I don't know the way to describe him. He's just been that guy recently he's gotten like additional exposure, and he's always, at least especially in AIW, he's always out to prove himself. And, hashtag Dom runs AIW just recently. But I think with this one, God, I don't want to pick against Dom, but I do feel like you have Lewis Linden, who's very underrated a lot of times with fans, a staple in AIW for years, but sometimes I feel like we forget how good he actually is.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough one there, too. I feel like the majority of these matches are tough to kind of decide who you think is going to win, because it's so complicated to choose one guy over another when you like both guys. When it comes to you guys call Dom Big Match Dom, because he goes out there and he's been killing it. He's definitely evolved over the past couple months, and there's a lot going on with Dom. But Lewis Linden is another guy, like you said, he's a staple of AIW. He's been there for a while. I don't necessarily agree with the mindset of people see him underrated, per se, because he continuously goes out there and performs and has some of the best matches every time. And for me, that's not someone that's underrated. It's someone that's just there being a workhorse, and he definitely is one of those. If I had to choose on a personal basis, I would choose Lewis Linden because he eliminated me from the Gauntlet for the Gold, and I would really like to get some revenge on that. However, like I've been in the ring with Dom a couple times. I know how hard he hits. I know he can hit even harder now. And I know he's progressed more as a wrestler, not just a jiu-jitsu fighter or an MMA guy. He's kind of become a full package. And to see him now and wrestle him now compared to when we wrestled each other then would be really cool, I think, too.
And the second round would be the perfect opportunity for that. I think if I were to pick, I'll officially pick Dom, partially because he is going to appear later on this episode, and we'll probably circle back to this match, at least talk about it, because he will unfortunately get the last final part of the tournament, so he won't get to talk about his matches like yourself and Magnum will, but yeah, this could be a very well a sleeper pick match of the night, just because both athletes, both Dom and both Linden, of how good they both are. And maybe I just feel like they're both somewhat underrated, but it's basically because, they're not traveling the road main eventing everywhere. Like, they're not looked at like that, but they're especially Dom, they're out, out proving themselves and out getting more and more experience and getting better and better, day after day, week after week, month after month. And with Linden, maybe it's because I don't exactly know his schedule, and he seemed to have settled down a little bit. I don't know as many places that he wrestled, but he at least knocks it out of the park at AIW. And then, when he won Gauntlet for the Gold last year, people went nuts. Like, nobody really seen it coming, like, before the show.
He's a guy who goes out there and he performs like they both do. They both go out there and they perform to the top capability that they can, and they just kind of kill it every time. And I agree with you with the fact that, like, they're both out there trying to prove it. They're not main eventing places, and that's very unfortunate because they kind of both have the power and the ability to start doing that.
And then we get on to the fourth match. That's for last. Yourself, Frankie Flynn versus Filthy Tom Lawler. People say, as you've mentioned earlier, that you're going to die.
Yes, they do.
But I do feel like the track record is not very good of when people have said that. People's word is not very good. As in, you're still here. Like you've mentioned, you went against Eddie. You've went against PB, and you're still here.
That's true. People have the tendency of doubting me, I guess you can say. But I wouldn't doubt me. I am the only Back to the Future Cup champion. Now I'm looking to become the first ever Back to the Future Cup champion and JLIT Tournament Cup champion.
You mean you're the only Back to the Future Cup champion in this tournament?
No, I don't. I defeated PB and I took the cup back. I do not see him as a Back to the Future Cup champion.
Oh, okay, I got you. I mean, that's bright. I'm actually kind of sad that we don't have a Back to the Future Cup, but I do like the idea of the Chandler Biggins Memorial Tag Team Tournament. It's going to give I feel like a different vibe for the first part of day 2. We've done the Back to the Future Cup stuff, which has been great, and there's still going to be a that rookie match, but we're still going to get some tag teams, some that we don't get to see here a lot, and some that maybe we do, but just see it in this opportunity. And if I'm correct, doesn't the winner of this almost get a title shot I don't know if it's whenever or it's at a certain date, but I thought, and I could be wrong, whether I heard there was supposed to be a title shot at the end of the tournament.
I'm not entirely certain how that works. I know when it was the Back to the Future Cup, it was the winner got to choose their absolution match. And I don't know if it's still going to be in that sense, or if they go for a tag title match, or some form of combination of the two. But I know whoever's winning, which is the production, it's just going to bring more spotlight on them. It's going to be a huge honor to win the first ever Chandler Biggins Memorial Tag Team Tournament.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any words to say about the production being in that tournament? Eddie Only and Danhausen.
And it's weird looking at a lot of the teams that have been announced, because the production in some form or capacity has beaten almost all the teams. When it comes to No Consequences, we've beaten them. When it comes to Philly and Marino, we've beaten them. When it comes to the Weird World, we've beaten them. We have not beaten the Carnies, but we have beaten Duke Money. It's an interesting area to be in, but I have 100% full faith in the stagehand and the writer.
The only team that I think that you guys don't have a record with is Party Never Stops. But I mean, they've only had 2 or 3 matches?
They've had, I want to say, about 3 or 4 in AIW alone. Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about them being in the tournament. They definitely deserve to be. They're up and coming guys who are trying to prove that they're these Haas. They're not burly. They're just a couple Haas guys.
Yeah, that
are trying to prove that they belong and find their own spot and niche in AIW. And I get that. That's what we all have done. And some of us have found them, some of us haven't.
I do think the pairing of those two, like I've mentioned time and time again, is just perfect, because I felt like both of them were kind of lost on their own. They were just AIW trainees, but putting them together made total sense. And I do look forward to see how they evolve over the next, couple months and everything, over even the next year. And this could be a well-run tag team between them, because I do love the personalities between them. But I think, kind of like going back to what you were saying, you have the production who have beat pretty much everybody on the field. And it's kind of unfair, though, that No Consequences got 2 entries, 2 teams in this, and you guys only got 1. I don't know if that's supposed to balance out there being 2 members in JLIT and only 1 No Consequences in the same tournament. And we still have Derek, who's, I take, is going to be directing the whole night, both nights, I should say.
Yeah, Derek's going to be doing his thing. He'll be watching everyone's back, making sure things go the way that they're written and supposed to go.
All right, as we start to wrap all this up, which actually, I didn't really throw out a winner for your match. I'm going to pick you, mainly because you're here. But second off, it would be great to see you into the next tournament. Into the next part of the bracket. And then, there's a potential that we could see in the finals yourself, Magnum CK, in the third person. So the production would have the best odds of winning the JLIT tournament.
Well, I personally, I think you're very smart picking me. I would pick me, and I do pick me. A huge reason I would pick me is the fact that I haven't had a singles match since Cold as Ice.
Wow.
Or Cool as Ice. Yeah. And, Filthy Tom has. So there's a lot more stuff to be scouted about Filthy Tom than there is me. I've changed a lot of things that I do. I'm a completely different human being Like I'm a different human being than I was yesterday to today. Imagine me from September to now. It's completely different. As for the whole possibility of me versus Magnum CK, that would never happen because we both know who the leader of the production is. And we both know what would happen.
I mean, I'm not saying a versus as in like you guys are going to be against each other, but I mean, in the bracket wise, it would be yourself versus Magnum versus his third person. So basically,
the other guy would be very, very sorry.
Exactly. It would the potential of there being a handicap match and maybe you getting an easy walk. I wouldn't say easy walk, but I mean, you would still become the winner.
That's true.
All right. Do you have any final thoughts about the JLIT tournament as a whole? And also, if you want to throw into the Chandler Biggins Memorial Tournament as, maybe your thoughts reflect on that.
Final thoughts is that this entire weekend is the hottest, biggest weekend for AIW. If you're not going to be there, I don't know why, because you definitely should be. There's so much going on. There's Marty Jannetty, there's Gangrel, there's Hornswoggle. He's making his return after we beat him up. Then you got, night 2 and the Chandler Biggins Memorial Tag Team Tournament happening right before night 2. It's going to be a huge honor for all the people in both tournaments. And just looking forward to everyone going out there and trying to prove themselves and steal the show, essentially.
Any last minute plugs too, like through all your social media where people can find you and find maybe clothing of yours?
Yeah, you could go to Pro Wrestling Tees /Frankie Flynn. I might be Frankie_Flynn. And then for social media wise on Twitter, Instagram, you can look me up at Frank, the letter E, Fantastic, as well as email me there for booking purposes or, just want to talk. And friend me on Facebook as just Frankie Flynn.
All right. It's as simple as that. And thank you for coming on, Frankie.
Thank you for having me, man.
It's been fantastic.
I see what you did there.
Hi, me, Space Monkey. You listen. Wrestling, cheers.
And we're back with the third, and the second guest here on the JLIT preview episode. And making his return to the podcast, we have Magnum CK. I almost had like a bunch of different names come out, but Magnum CK.
What's up, man? I was wondering myself which name was going to pop out. I was like, who am I exactly?
So welcome back to Wrestling Cheers.
Absolutely. Hey, I'm glad to be here, man. Thank you very much.
The big thing we obviously have to talk about is, it's the JLIT preview. It's JLIT weekend. And I know you're pumped. You have a podcast tour going on this past week. What's the total number?
I lost track. So I've done, I've so far since Friday, this is the third one. And then I have one more after you tonight. And then I have Wednesday and Thursday. Wait, no, I'm sorry. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And I can't even tell you off the top of my head who's on what day. But, it's one of those things where I like to do it anyway. I like to talk, obviously, but and it just so happens that a lot of the people I know who do podcasts are people I like to talk to. Just like this one. I enjoy this very much, and. I was talking about this earlier. It's 3 shows over 2 days. So you have to fill a house 3 times in 2 days. Okay. Now I know they sell the weekend passes and everything, but that's hard to do. Now just think about just a normal person having to dedicate, 2 days out of their weekend. That's hard to get people to do that. Now the cards are stacked. The show is almost always guaranteed to be amazing. It's AIW, you're going to get a great show anyway. But what I thought was the least I could do is reach out to as many people as I could and try to do as much of this promotion as I can. And, even if one ticket got sold out of doing a bunch of interviews, then it's still a success because I just enjoy doing it anyway.
And this is obviously your first JLIT experience because it's something different. For example, right before you did this interview, you were on the road home from wrestling, which by the time this comes out, you'll definitely be able to go on iTunes and check that out. And you said like how Absolution is the WrestleMania. Well, that's obviously very much true, but this is like the WrestleMania weekend of AIW, because it's like, I mean, we have the 3 shows in 2 days, which, I mean, it's a lot when you think of it. It's coming from one company. A lot of times there's other things going on. Last year we had a movie shoot right before the first show of the day, before the Back to the Future Cup 2. So if you wanted to be a part of that, I forget what time you had to wake up, and I was one of the dumb ones that got a couple hours of sleep and went in to be an extra for that. And I mean, granted, we're not doing that this year, but there's also a tailgating planning going on, and it's just so much fun. And the only thing I can compare it to is it's the WrestleMania weekend. I think that's what a lot of us fans are looking forward to. And obviously, the tournament's going to be great. We're going to get some great stuff. We only have one match announced for day 2, and that's Colt Cabana versus Nick Gage. But we know we're going to have the second half of the tournament, and then we'll have a handful, probably other matches sprinkled in too. And I mean, even last year, that's when we had AJ Gray got put into an impromptu match versus Kaplan after he debuted at the Back to the Future Cup 2. So we never know what's going to happen. It's always a memorable thing in the year of AIW. I think one of the funniest things was back in, I think, 2013, I want to say. The weekend was so crazy, like the next week a hashtag started among fans and wrestlers and everybody of like hashtag things I learned JLIT weekend. And it was just like going back and reading some of those, they were very funny. And
well, it is, as Monsoon, not Monsoon Classic, but Gorilla Monsoon would say, it is a happening. I mean, it's something that you don't want to miss, and I'm not even trying to go into sales mode here, but even if I wasn't on the show, it's something that I would always get excited for, because it's just an interesting, unpredictable weekend of wrestling. And I think the best thing to do is just like you're talking about, and like you do, is just throw yourself into it and have a good time.
And obviously, I always feel bad for people that I know that, you know, are more than just one person going. I'm lucky it's just me going. So, like, I'm always front row. So that's, you know, $90 out of my pocket. But you have, like, Caden and his grandpa. That's, you know, that's $180 for the whole weekend. And I don't know exactly what the GA prices are, but I know still it's a lot to shell out for one weekend. But it is actually always worth it. I don't know if I ever walked away from a JLIT and went, well, that sucked.
Well, how many concerts could you go to and pay $180 for a front row seat? You know, I mean, and that's only one night. You know, so you're going to end up with like 8 plus hours, 9, 10 hours of wrestling for the same price that it would cost to be in the nosebleeds of some concert. You know.
Yeah, that's actually true. I'm not a big concert goer. I think it's because, I don't know, I think when I look back at it, it's just you're listening to almost the same thing you can hear on a CD, and I don't know, I hardly ever remember a live show that's as good as the audio. You have to give me something different, something crazy.
Well, my wife and I mean, geez, I paid over $1,000 for 2 tickets to see Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway. You know, we got lucky in Chicago. We saw Hamilton. We got our tickets for face value. They were center orchestra, but the people around us paid $600 and $700 a piece just for one show.
I can understand it more for, pardon the pun, for this conversation, but for a production like that. But I don't know, because I don't even think with concerts, like I've been to a lot of shows where, I mean, it's just the band playing. There's not much like theatrics. Like if you give me like, I think I heard Alice Cooper back in the day was like very, very theatrical with some of the stuff he did. And I wish I could have witnessed that, but unfortunately I couldn't.
Well, wrestling, as you know, is absolutely the ultimate in theatrics. I mean, it's going to be a roller coaster, and it's worth every penny. And not everybody has to sit in front row. You can definitely there's not a bad seat in the house. So I think if you can get to it, even if you can get to one of the shows, I think it's definitely worth it.
It's especially too. I think if you're gonna sample AIW, if you're gonna do one show, pick one of them and come, because you're going to either get a great first round, or you're going to get a great second round, or you're going to, if you actually decide to do the tag team tournament, you're going to get a lot of young up and coming teams trying to prove themselves. And as of right now, I still don't have a bracket or matchups of what's going on, but I know all the teams, and I'm looking forward to see what they all do for that show too. So it's definitely a nice sampler platter if you pick at least one of them.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm going to watch the tag team tournament. I can't wait to see it. I'm really excited just to get to watch the show. So many of my friends are in it. And also, gosh, I love the Carnies, man. They're two of the coolest guys in real life, but they're also an amazing tag team to watch. So I was really happy to see that the Carnies were coming.
But your pick to win would have to be the production.
Well, of course. I mean, come on. You know, what am I going to do? Even if it wasn't my pick, it's got to be my pick because I got to see these guys in like 4 days or a couple days or whatever, whenever this goes up. But yeah, of course. Danhausen and Eddie Only, man, I was just talking about them the other day. They are so interesting to watch and so slick in the ring and so different. Eddie Only just amazes me how he can jump around like a little cat. And Danhausen, man, he's just the weirdest guy in the best way. I love his style. So I'm really excited to watch them together. And listen, you know, it's the production, man. So, you know, I know I'm going to be there. Obviously, Derek is going to be there. There's nothing to say. I don't know. You know, we'll see. I'm a big fan of the Fabulous Freebirds, you know, so you never know. Maybe we'll mix it up a little bit. I'm not going to say anything, but that would be my preference.
And something I want to throw out here. I mean, I mentioned it on the part with Frankie, and we will have a full interview with the production after Absolution. I'm very much looking forward to that after, you know, close to 1 year in AIW, what kind of things we have to talk about, but something that it's non-AIW related, but we will get into the rest of the tournament, but something I like to throw out there because it's my dream match. One of my dream matches that I'm starting to like write down, and that is the production versus Team Storm.
Well, a little known fact, I've actually beaten everybody in Team Storm before, so no, I think it's funny. I've been hearing that bubbling up here and there. And actually, there was a promotion who just contacted me this past week who was actually trying to get the jump on that and set it up. But unfortunately, myself and several others were elsewhere that particular day. But yeah, I've been hearing that bubbling up. You know, I just talked to old Jackson Argos today, actually, and he was trying to plant a little seed there. So we'll see. I never say never in pro wrestling, but I like the idea of faction wars. You know, I think growing up watching a period where there were a lot of factions is interesting to see the different dynamics that you can create out of that.
I even just think with the on mic talent that you have, like maybe yourself versus Argos, or even, you know, throw Derek in there too, and Jack Pollock. It's just so much greatness can be achieved from that, and whether it be AIW who does it, whether it be Remix who does it, whether it be another company who does it, or whether I have to go out and win the lottery and just pull off a show where I can see this, it needs to happen. That's all I gotta say.
Well, my preference is always to do big, great things at AIW. So we'll see what happens. I would hate to take something big like that somewhere where it wouldn't be treated well, so I would be picky about that. But, you know, you mentioned Derek, and I think people are starting to realize that, man, this guy, he is dynamite in the ring. I mean, I love the way he interacts with the crowds and everything, and he's great in that role too, because like I've talked about earlier tonight with Drew on Road Home, you know, I'm not super vocal in the ring. I'll definitely toss a couple lines out there or some jokes here and there, or when it's time to be loud, I'll be loud, but I like to let my body and physicality and facial expressions do a lot of my talking. So I love having Derek there because he's great at being a good loudmouth. But man, oh man, that guy can go in the ring, and his timing is fantastic. And I think people are starting to wake up and see that, man, Derek's got it.
I've always loved Derek's crowd work of when someone says something, or even sometimes he'll say something before you will, and that's one of the things I love about him. I mean, he's also obviously a friend of the show, guy who's been on, and one of my favorite episodes that I've done here on Wrestling Cheers is sitting down with him and having a conversation, I don't think we really touched wrestling once. And that's something that I hold close to my heart, is just a nice hour or so of talking about cereal and Nickelodeon.
Well, it's funny because since I've made my way onto the AIW roster and been kind of a current, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but since I've made all these AIW shows, Derek has become someone I talk to almost every day. I mean, he's become one of my better friends, and Dominic the same way. You just find out that you have much more in common with these people other than wrestling, and you start to become actual friends.
And then, where was I going with that? I got interrupted by a message. But let's get into the tournament. And we have this third of it, and the matchups are Tim Donst versus Gangrel, Ethan Page versus Matt Justice, yourself, Magnum CK versus Hornswoggle, and MJF versus Space Monkey. And we will start with this first match, Tim Donst versus Gangrel. Donst was a guy for a long time who always had big opponents coming in to shows, and we called him Big Match Donst for a reason. That hasn't happened for a while, but I think Donst versus Gangrel is going to be very, very interesting.
Well, it's funny when I saw that when they announced Gangrel, I immediately was like, "Oh man, that's awesome!" And then I started thinking okay, I didn't know who was going to be in the tournament, and I thought gosh, who's going to be with Gangrel? And then when they announced Donst, I was like, "Oh man, perfect!" That's a match I'm really looking forward to. Now these shows are kind of crazy, because I try to watch as much as I can, but I don't always get the opportunity to, depending on where I am on the show. But I'll really be looking forward to watching back and see what these guys are able to come up with, because that's just a really, really interesting combination, but it also seems like a perfect match,
Between these two, who would you pick to win?
Oh gosh, I didn't know you were going to put me on the spot. That's tough. Well, okay. Is this the bracket that I'm in? I'm in this bracket?
Yeah, you are in this bracket. I mean, you could look at it from one of two ways. You can go who you think's going to win, or who you want to see in the second round.
Well, I'm trying to think. Yeah, who could I face? Who, if I advance to the second round, who's going to be in the match with me? I'm thinking, I know Gangrel's in great shape. I just saw a video of him from a couple weeks ago, and that guy just loves wrestling and is great at wrestling. But there's a part of me that wouldn't mind locking up with old Donst here sooner than later. So I think I'm going to just go with my strategy is assuming I can find a way to beat Swoggle and move on to the second round, who I want in that match with me. I'm going to go with Donst on this one, because I don't know what a vampire's capable of,
I think Donst would be perfect proving material in AIW, because actually you figure in your bracket you have two former AIW Absolute Champions, you have one current tag team champion, and that's pretty much it. But I still feel like if you could walk out and get to the finals after all that, you would obviously have a shot at the AIW Absolute title, which actually, by the way, that is because I don't know whether you do this or not, but it's perfectly fine, and because obviously there is the big trophy, but the winner also gets a kind of a Money in the Bank type deal, but sure, you don't have to carry around the trophy. We just pretty much already know it, and you get a title shot whenever, whether you want to pull it as I want to face you here, or we've had it where people have just walked out and said, "Yep, I want my match right now, right after this match." So,
well, the stakes don't get any bigger than that. That's opportunity. So yeah, you're right. This is a pretty stacked bracket in that sense.
So if you can manage to get past Donst and Page, let's say they both make it to the next round, then you beat them, get to the finals. You're definitely championship material.
Well, listen. We're putting the cart so far away in front of the horse that the earth might rotate around first. But yeah, I see exactly what you mean. I actually didn't know what my bracket was until you read it off, and hearing it, I am very excited at the possibilities. But again, I'm not going to look past round one. Obviously anything can happen on any given night in pro wrestling. So if I can get past Swoggle and get to the second round, man, there's some wonderful possibilities in there. My gears are already turning.
And then you have the next match, which I think if I were to pick someone from actually Donst and Gangrel, as much as I'm not a really big fan of Donst, I think I would have to go with Donst. But Ethan Page versus Matt Justice, and this is a rematch from the last show when these two had a barn burner between them. And something about Matt Justice over the last year since he's made his return to AIW, he has had a lot of great matches, and especially with like this year alone of 2018 and rematch against Page. This is going to be very interesting. And what are your thoughts on it?
Well, you said it. Matt Justice he's having great matches because he's a great wrestler. He's someone I respect greatly, and he's just he's an awesome guy as well. And so this is a match that's tough for me because I feel the exact same way about Ethan Page. I think he's someone who I have a ton of respect for and who I really love to watch as well. So this one is a complete total toss up, 50-50 for me. I hate to comp out on you like that, but man, I would love an opportunity, a potential second round opportunity with either one of these guys, and they've kind of had this back and forth thing going on. So I'd be hard pressed. I'd have to flip a coin to pick one of these guys. But I will say this is going to be one of the matches of the night without a doubt because they just put on a clinic last time.
And then if I'm correct, you're going to see Dr. Daniel C. Rockingham in Ethan Page's corner. As far as what I could tell of what we had last month, and I've been informed that Dr. Daniel C. Rockingham will be in attendance, so I figure since Dr. Dan is the one that helped get Ethan Page the spot in the tournament, that we will see the doctor ringside.
Well, that actually tipped the scales for me because here's what I'm thinking. It was 50-50 before. Now I hear Dr. Dan's in the corner of Ethan Page. I'm going to have to go Matt Justice.
Oh, how? That's a tough one for Dr. Dan, if he's listening. I'm pretty sure he's writing himself a prescription for some painkillers after that burn. We'll play the devil's advocate. I'll say because of Dr. Dan, you'll have Ethan Page win again. So that would be very. I mean, either way, I think with both guys, they're both great competitors and definitely worthy of making it into the next round.
Oh, totally. I mean, we all win no matter what.
Yeah. And then we're going to skip over your match for right now. We'll save the best for last. But a match that I'm really looking forward to, and that's MJF versus Space Monkey. MJF is, over the last year, has been one of my favorite newer names besides yourself, Magnum. In what he has done, like, he's had some great matches that people aren't really talking about. And maybe it's not necessarily, he's high flying and all this stuff. He's at least entertaining in the sense of everybody hates him. Right. And that kind of adds to it. I think he had a great match with Cabana. He's had a great match with Dick Justice. Now we're on to Space Monkey. And I'm a big fan of Space Monkey. So seeing these two in a match together, it's going to be, pardon the pun, but bananas.
Well, this is another one. I mean, this is going to be very, very entertaining, and I happen to like both of these guys as well. I have to say in this one, if I'm forced to pick, I feel like MJF is going to find a way.
Yeah, I could very much see that. I'll play the devil's advocate again and just say Space Monkey, because getting Space Monkey into the next round would be very fun. Like, if, just as we've said so far, Donst, Justice, yourself, and Space Monkey.
Any way you slice it, I mean, geez, when you look at this bracket, it's actually ingeniously put together. Now that I hear it, it's interesting because any of the combinations would just be incredible. Mm-hmm. And just weird, like weird in a good way, like
yeah. So we have your match versus Hornswoggle, and I think there's a lot that rides on this match because you're going to get to the next round and all that, but if you could beat Hornswoggle, I would think that the production would have a more than valid case of why they should be fighting for the tag team championships.
I'd have to completely agree with you. You know, I've already beaten PB Smooth all by myself, and you know, if I could pull one over on Hornswoggle, well, then technically I should be the tag team champions all by myself. So, you know, I think we'd have to have a shot lined up after that. And I think even if the unthinkable happened, even if Hornswoggle was able to sneak his way into a victory in the first round, I think we still are due a title shot. I think the production, as a group, we haven't really faced any defeats in AIW, and you know, so I think if there was ever to be a contender, it would have to be at least 2 members of the production.
That's the other way I was thinking about it too, because it was like you were saying, the production has not had any loss, especially as a whole. I don't know if there's been any like smaller losses, like maybe some singles or whatnot, but you know, Eddie only beat PB Smooth. You beat PB Smooth. Frankie Flynn's been PB Smooth. So that's 3 members right there already that has beaten one half of the tag team champions. Why not any 2 of the 3, and not even counting the ones who weren't mentioned? Why couldn't they get a shot against both champions at the same time for the title?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, listen, that's exactly it. I mean, you know, you hear the reactions when the production comes out. I mean, my God, you know, when I think about back to the Gauntlet and my entrance on the Gauntlet, I've never experienced a crowd reaction like that in my entire life, and it gives me goosebumps right now just thinking about it. So, you know, I kept saying for a long time, guys, we're on the edge of something great. I think we're on something great now. You know, I mean, we're really going.
I've said before that the production is one of my favorite things in professional wrestling right now. And ironically enough, yes, the only thing that does match it to an extent is Team Storm. And that's why I want to see both teams go up against each other. But it's the fact of how just watching the production grow, watching Frankie Flynn, you know, take the Back to the Future Cup trophy and hit PB Smooth with it and beat him down, and then come out during day 2 of the JLIT tournament looking different. And that, like, the seeds were being planted. So then we had the Absolution match, and we had the birth of the production. And then when we think that Frankie is about to lose to PB Smooth because the rest of the production has been banned from ringside, all of a sudden you come out from the crowd and you debut. And then just when we think, you know, your guys are all up against the ropes, all of a sudden the lights, not the lights, but all of a sudden the buzzer goes off, and this is the stagehand, this is Eddie only. And even when a wrestler, there needs to be a recasting that it's able to happen seamlessly and flawlessly, and it's just this build. And I think one of my favorite things that I've seen of the production is the Enter the Dragon, and it's just the simple thing of the entrance of having being able to have a set that was behind curtains, and then just have the curtains open and there's a production. It gets no better than that. And we're not even a full year into the production's run. No pun intended. It's kind of it's kind of its own statement there, but it's been fun. It's been great, and there's still so much more to go. I mean, that's why I want to have the first interview of the production as a whole, which obviously hasn't not been done yet.
Yeah, it's hard to get us all in the same place at the same time. I mean, you know, the only place where the magic really happens is at AIW. You know, that's the only time we're ever all together. And I agree with you. I think that when I think about not only myself in AIW personally, but when I just think about the production, I mean, we've barely even gotten started. You know, it's weird to think that it's been 9 months, but it's barely even the beginning.
And there's been fantastic promos, too. People might not like the longer promos from this particular podcast, but I'm definitely one of the people that if you can hold my attention for that long, then it doesn't matter how long it is.
Well, my JLIT promo that's about to go up is only 1 minute and 30 seconds, so he'll be happy.
And if that gets released before this officially releases, which probably, because I'm planning on Thursday night as the regular time for the Wrestling Cheers, so that might be afterwards, right after all this, so something to look for. Oh, wait a minute, is there like regular audio? It's not you just eating a thing of peanut butter, and if I put it on a podcast, it wouldn't make any sense?
Okay. Talking.
Okay.
You know, it's funny, because I shot one, and it was just a hair over 2 minutes, and that dude popped in my head, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to tighten it up. Do it again.
You hear that, Dustin? He put it under 2 minutes for you. Even like, 2 minutes, that's not, I don't know. I've learned because there was one podcast that I used to do where callers used to send in an audio file and that'd be part of the show. I mean, this podcast would go like literally about 4 or 5 hours long sometimes. And the limit that they had, it was like if you wanted like your contribution had to be about 90 seconds or less. That's what they asked.
Yeah.
And I always said, like, it doesn't matter to me how long it is, but if I'm starting to look at my watch, then you need to wrap it up. But if you can keep
that's just it. Yeah, if you get, there are definitely those times that I get into the mode where it's like I could have a 4 or 5 minute promo if I wanted to, you know, when you get deep into a story and stuff like that. But, you know, talking about JLIT and everything, I thought tighten it up, keep it good, keep it poppy. There's a lot. I'm excited for that one to get released, actually, because there's a lot of real emotion in there, like there always should be anyway, but just a lot of real, you can just, sometimes when you're doing it, you can tell when you got it, you know? Yeah. And the second time through, I was like, yeah, I got it. Yeah, that's better. This is good.
I think the thing that I liked about that longer promo was the fact that there was different camera angles. And that's not, I want to say it's not really done at all at this level. Like maybe in like an Impact or Ring of Honor or something like that. But at this level, like no one's going to Black Label Pro or IWC or Remix and cutting like promos from different angles. It's always the regular one shots.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but sometimes it's those little things that can help you stick out more.
That was for a couple reasons. It was 2 reasons. One, because I realized nobody was doing it, and I was like, that's kind of my MO. When I see things people aren't doing, I'm like, or I see what people are doing, and I'm like, well, how can I be different? But also audio reasons, because I wanted that cool long shot, but I didn't have an external audio at the time, and so I had a second camera. So I was like, all right, well, we'll take the audio from the closer camera, and then boom, there you go.
So we've halfway talked about it, but your match versus Swoggle, we have all the things that could go into it, but will you be selling Hornswoggle short?
I've been practicing on my short arm scissors, you know. I got a short arm clothesline. I'm sure he's heard all the jokes.
Oh, yeah.
But wait, what?
No, I said, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. He's heard all the jokes. But, you know, more important, like, honestly, I think that Swoggle's, what people might not know is he's one of the most creative dudes in wrestling. And so I consider myself a pretty creative type of person. So I'm excited for those two minds to come together, you know, and see what kind of mischief we can come up with. But man, I was trying to scout him, you know. I was trying to make sure that everything was well scouted. I was watching some of his more recent stuff on YouTube, and man, it's all different. That's the cool thing about Swoggle, is you never see the same stuff from him, you know.
Yeah. I think even in his, this is no pun intended, his short stint recently in AIW, is that he's always managed to be at some point entertaining. And it's not like, oh, it's another Hornswoggle match. It's either a match that we're like, oh, like because there's definitely been a number of matches. I was like, I didn't know I wanted this match, but I'm happy AIW is now giving it to me. And then they did everything last year with, you know, Hornswoggle and Britt Baker. And that was a fun feud. So he went away for a little while, and then now we have twins. And that's fun.
Well, I think that this match is one that people probably think that about. Like, I think, you know, when they announced me and they announced Swoggle, I don't know that a lot of people were thinking, oh, you know, Magnum and Swoggle. But as soon as you see the graphic, you're like, oh, yeah, perfect. You know, like as soon as I saw it, because I didn't even know who my opponent was until I saw the graphic. And I was like, oh, man. Immediately, like, well, I had to do the double take. I looked at it and I was like, wait, that's me, right? Like, okay, yeah. Oh, perfect. I was like, that's beyond perfect.
So I take it we're going to put you in the second round.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you know, what am I going to do? You know, you've already lost if you don't think you're going to win.
That's very true. That's a very common phrase, and it's applicable here. So, you know, that's this part of the bracket. And before we go and start to wrap this up, do you have any words about JT Lightning or Chandler Biggins that you want to express, or just anything about this weekend in general and what it means to you?
Oh, of course. I mean, listen, I've talked about this at length, especially on like the Road Home interview, if you want to hear kind of the longer version. But, I met JT Lightning when I was 8 years old. He wrestled for my uncle, and he was one of the guys that I knew. And then I wrestled for him some up at CAPW, at Cleveland All Pro, at 06, 07, around there as kind of one of his underneath guys. And, I always had great respect for him, and once he finally found out who I was, we had a really, pretty cool little relationship. And, I was out of the ring. I wrestled for about 5 years, and then I kind of transitioned out of the ring for various reasons. But I was out of the ring when he died, and I kind of always hated that. I always wanted to kind of be around. You never know when these people are going to leave you, And as soon as they started doing these tournaments, I was immediately jealous. I always wanted to be in it. And then I came back to wrestling, 2.5 years ago. So, ever since then, every time it's popped up, I thought, man, I got to get there. I got to get to one. And when I popped up as an entrant, man, I mean, it was a surreal moment. It was one of those flashbulb memories where I remember exactly where I was, because it does mean a lot to me. Now, listen, there are a lot of people. Johnny Gargano knows JT Lightning a lot better than I do. John Thorne knows JT a lot better than I did. But he was someone important in my life and who I knew since I was a kid, and I had a lot of respect for it. He taught me a lot of lessons in wrestling, the times that I worked for him. And I have a few stories, and he impacted my life. So it means a lot to me to be one of the guys on the show who actually wrestled for JT in the past. I know there are a few of us, but not as many as there used to be, obviously. But that means a lot to me because I have legitimate, tangible memories of the man that I'm bringing in with me. And a similar situation with Chandler. I knew Chandler. We barely ever talked about wrestling. We talked about podcasts online. And I think one thing about me that a lot of promoters seem to enjoy is that I talk to them as people, not as promoters. I'm not trying to sniff out a spot or a push or a job. I'm just trying to be nice to people, just because they're human beings, and human beings interest me. I've always been very interested in sociology, so I enjoy getting to know people and figuring them out, having good conversations with them. So Chandler, I never once hit him up for a booking in my entire life. A lot of people probably do that, but I didn't want to taint, I didn't want to turn him off with that. I always thought if they wanted me, they'd call, and you know what, they did. So, I have a lot of memories with Chandler too. I remember before he got sick, we had a bunch of messages back and forth about the Richard Simmons podcast. Of all things, there was a podcast where this guy was trying to find Richard Simmons, and I didn't know about it, and he told me about it, and I downloaded it one late night coming back from like Canada or something, and I was dying, passing out, tired, and I listened to that, and it kept me awake the whole way. So more importantly, I think there's a lot of great talent on these shows, but to be perfectly honest, this weekend is not about any of the 24 people in the tournament, and it's not about the 8 teams in the tag tournament. It's about 2 great guys who absolutely loved and breathed and lived pro wrestling and wanted nothing more than to bring their joy, the joy they receive from pro wrestling. They wanted to send that out to people and perpetuate that as much as they could. And that is completely commendable, because I can tell you, I have known some awful, shyster, terrible, wart on their nose promoters in my life. I've been invited to wrestle for free on medical benefit shows and then found out that the money box was stolen by the promoter. I have known some awful people in my, 7.5 years as a pro wrestler. But I can tell you for a flat fact that Chandler and JT were not that. They were wonderful people who were just characters in this weird, crazy family of wrestling, and they are so sorely missed. I mean, when I saw the Chandler Memorial graphic, I know John talked about it on his podcast, I couldn't believe it. I remember exactly where I was. I was sitting, and I popped up my phone, and I was just like, wow, like, he is gone. Like, that's so weird. So I think everyone's going to put on their best show. I think that the atmosphere is going to be electric with positivity, and I think that every single person in the crowd is going to have fun and go home happy because everyone's going to bust their tail. Because I can tell you, I've already thought about it. JT and Chandler, I'm not a religious guy, but I do have a weird bit of spiritualism in me somewhere, and I know that they're going to be there. You know, I always say a little prayer to Chandler before I go out at the arena there in Cleveland, and I know that they're both going to be there, and they're going to be very, very touched and happy to see that they've built something that lives on past their death, and that's more than most people can say.
The legacy of both men is just overwhelmingly amazing. Like, I never knew JT Lightning, unfortunately. I became a fan literally right around his passing. The first show I almost went to was the memorial show just because I was starting to get into it. I'm like, oh, they have a show coming up. Oh, it's this show. Okay. And unfortunately, I was unable to make it, but yeah. I always felt like, you know, if it wasn't for JT Lightning, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And if it wasn't for Chandler Biggins, I mean, I've mentioned it many times before, this podcast probably wouldn't be around, and it was just simple words from him. And he was always a guy that I went to for anything that I ever had to ask from the company as a whole. Like, hey, like there's many times I'd be like, hey, I can't afford my front row seat right yet, and right now I want it before it goes on, like before they get sold out. Can you hold me a ticket? He was always willing to do it as long as they had it to be sold. I think there was even, I think the last Absolution that he was alive that I wasn't able to get a front row ticket, and he's like, there's nothing we can do. Like, he's like, if someone mentions that they're selling one, I'll let you know. And the moment someone did, he shot me a message. And
you know what? He didn't have to do that. And it's just because he's a good guy. I would run into him at shows. He would always bring all of his stuff he'd sell, all his merchandise, to remix shows, and I would catch him at shows around the Cleveland area from time to time. And I always bought a ton of stuff from him, and he wouldn't even let me pay the wrestler price, you know, because there's the price that's written on the thing. I'd buy a bunch of old, Bill Apter magazines or something from him. He wouldn't even give me the wrestler price. He would always give me this crazy deal, and I'd always insist that he'd take full price, and he never would. And that's rare, dude. You know, I mean, I can say that of a few guys I can count on one hand the number of people who are selling wrestling merchandise that'll do you like that. It's just because he's just a good guy who loved it, and he loved the piece, and he wanted someone else to have it.
All right, let's wrap this segment up. And any final thoughts or last minute plugs before you go? And where can all the people find you if they haven't already found you on social media as is?
Well, Twitter and Instagram is at the Magnum CK, but more importantly, shop.aiwrestling.com, baby. That's where you get the tickets. That's where you get the weekend passes. That's what we're all here for. We're trying to pack this building because we want. It's not money. Like John mentioned this on his show. It's not like, oh, we're going to have a big house and go to Vegas afterward. It's not about making money. It's about packing the house and showing the world that these people were important and that we're going to remember them, and then they're going to be remembered long past when we're gone too. So that's my big message, is just get there, throw yourself into it like Justin does, and have fun.
And anybody who was at NXT chanting Chandler Biggins' name, you should all buy a ticket to this show. Because you were all needed. So thanks very much coming on, Magnum, and we will see you again or hear from you again in July.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Magnum.
Thank you.
So what do you get when you mix Mark Summers, Mike O'Malley, Stick Stickley, and Doug Funny? That's right. You get the Aggro Crag Assassin, Derek Direction, and you're listening to Wrestling Chairs.
Not just an event, not just a night, not just a weekend, it is the weekend. JT Lightning, they call it JLIT, and I have been waiting for this invitation for years. Because you see, there are two types of people in this universe. There are those who fall at the feet of their dreams, who scratch and claw and tell the whole world how much they want it, only to crumble at the feet of fate. And then there's Magnum CK. You see, I've been rising to the occasion my entire life. I walk up to destiny, look it in the eye, spit in its face, drink every drop from the cup of life, smash it on the ground, and demand another one, Jack. Because what's at stake is history. 24 men, 24 athletes, all given the invitation, but only one gets to write their name in the stars. It's right in front of you. Can you take it? Are you man enough to take it? Because only one of us will grab that chisel and carve Magnum CK into the chest of history. This is no rehearsal. Curtain up! Go lights! You're on.
This is the Bard, the new lead of sports entertainment, professional wrestling, whatever you want to call it. The Prince of Broadway and the leader of the production, Frankie Flynn. And you're listening to Wrestling Cheers.
And we're back here on the podcast. Third part, final part. You've already been listening to close to an hour and 20 minutes of the show. So I could say we're going to try to be quick, but that won't happen. So we have actually live in the studio, we have the Bone Collector, Dominic Garrini.
Well, thank you for having me, Justin.
How do you like the shirt? I wore it on purpose for today.
It's perfect.
For those, I'm wearing a Dominic Garrini shirt, a Bone Collector shirt. So
buy some merch on Friday, please.
Yeah.
I've only got mediums left of that, sorry, but I've got the Jean-Claude Van Damme ripoff Bloodsport shirt that I did. That was WrestleMania exclusive that I still have some of, and of course, as always, our real submission shirts, all kinds of 8x10s, trading cards which are new, and then of course pins.
What about the Our Real Monsters one?
I do have that one still. That one I think I have all sizes of still.
Okay.
So plenty of merch. Come out, buy up, and let's have some fun.
It's going to be a fun weekend, and that's something that's been stressed on. I mean, the Chandler episode, this episode is just it's one of the best weekends of AIW, and I know I've repeated it a lot, but it's like WrestleMania weekend of AIW. Like, granted, Absolution is WrestleMania, but I feel like this is the WrestleMania weekend experience of just coming out and having fun.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like that all-encompassing party, you know, where you get to come out and just hang out with everybody for a couple days. Obviously, you know, 3 shows within a 2-day span. You know, a little bit of a change in the format with the tag team tournament Saturday this year. So, you know, it's going to be a great time.
How do you feel about that? I mean, it being the Chandler Biggins tournament, I know you're obviously not in it, but for someone who was around Biggins for as long as you were.
I think it was, and I talked to Thorne about this, I think it was one of the perfect things to do to honor Chandler. Chandler loved tag team wrestling, and if it was his call, it'd be a tag team tournament because he loved tag wrestling. Both Double Dares are mainly a proponent of Chandler Biggins wanting to do tournament, or wanting to do tag team wrestling. So, you know, I know when John was putting together lineups for that, he was hoping to, you know, do Chandler proud with some of the options as well. I think you look at the tournament, there's a lot of school representation there, AIW students, you know, PME, who honestly is a team that Chandler took a liking to the first time he saw them at Mega.
That makes total sense.
Obviously, there's a great story behind Philly Collins' first tag team partner actually being me and not Marino Tenaglia.
Wow.
Yeah, we teamed up against a guy named the Drew, who is no longer around, and the Duke. So the Duke and me rivalry goes back pretty much to the start of my career. But, you know, Chandler saw Philly, and he loved Philly from the beginning and saw a lot of charisma in him, and they saw Marino as well, and, you know, Chandler loved both of them, and, you know, you've got the 4 kids from No Consequences that Chandler got to spend some time with, and, you know, even though he razzed a kid like Trey, he always loved Trey, and he loved all those kids, so, that, you know, there's 4, so there's 6 kids right there. Oh, and let's not forget about Gary the King Baller.
Oh,
He was there the day Gary the King Baller threw up his calzone. So, you know, Chandler loved all those kids. So, you know, there's a lot of that. Chandler and Carrie Awful from the Carnies were very good friends, like literally talked at 3 a.m. many times. Yeah. Carrie and I had a lot of heart-to-heart moments when Chandler had passed. Just talking on the phone, you know, like late nights, just remembering and stuff.
And this will be their first return since his passing.
Yeah, this is their first return since his passing. And then, of course, he loved Jock Sampson. Come on, Jock Sampson is Memphis Wrestling to Chandler Biggins. And honestly, I know that Chandler wasn't super into Mance Warner before he got sick, but I think if he saw where Mance Warner is at now, Mance Warner would be one of Chandler Biggins' favorite wrestlers on the independents right now. without a shadow of a doubt. Like, he is Memphis to a T, and he likes all of the kind of subgenre wrestling that Chandler liked, the older WCW stuff, things like that. I'm trying to think of other teams I might be forgetting.
Weird World.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Anybody that, was at any of Chandler's services knows the kind of kinship he had with Weird Body, and of course, same with Worldwide. So there's Weird World, and then I think he would love what the production has become. Because they are literally something that I think he had always maybe envisioned for Frankie. And, but he had never gotten the chance to see it out. I know he'd love like a dude like 8-Ball Eddie Only. And I know that he would respect, the workhorsemanship of like a Danhausen. So
yeah,
for sure.
Have we missed anybody? I don't want to leave anybody.
That's the whole tag team tournament field, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right too. I mean, right now we did do the preview, and it's only 8 teams. So trying to remember everybody.
8 teams with a little bit of non-tournament action as well. So
yeah. Which we don't really. Oh, the 4 rookies. I was about to say we don't know any of those matches. But I'm like, the rookie
4
match.
Rookies. I know that Chandler had gotten to hang out a little bit with Wes Barkley before, because Wes Barkley's been at the AAW school for about as long as the No Consequences kids have. He had a real bad injury, kind of in the early beginning set of his training. So he's been around. The other 3 don't. Well, Zach Thomas, I know that Chandler knows of Zach.
Yeah.
Of course, wrestling before and all those things. So, even he's got connections into that match. So I think it's going to be a great little thing for Chandler to honor his memory.
I think right after like Biggins passed, one of the first things I thought of, I should say not passed, but like right around the time of the funeral and everything, I was like, how are we going to memorialize him? And the having it be JLIT weekend, a Memorial Tag Team Tournament, and basically, which I haven't heard many people say, it's like it's AIW's own Memorial Day. Like it's our own and the fact that it's Memorial Day weekend just makes it perfect.
It really is.
So let's get into the final third of this tournament, which in this bracket, which like I've mentioned, unfortunately, Dom, you will not be in your bracket, but we will shoot back so you can say some things about your opponent and having a rival also in the same bracket. But we have Colin Delaney and Cheech, Gringo Loco and Laredo Kid, Andrew Everett, Jody Fleisch, and Marty Jannetty and Joey Janela. That has to be the main event of the night.
I mean, we'll see.
We'll see, but I don't know.
I'm not going to more details.
Well, as a fan, that's the only thing. It's like when we do it with fans, it's like fun to like throw out our speculation. But if you know, it's like I ain't telling you.
I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna tell you. So.
That's fine. But
I want the whole front row to be excited when the main event comes out. So,
and of course, with AIW, cards subject to change.
Yeah, about 120%. That's true.
And it being JLIT week, because actually, I think Thorne actually tweeted out the bracket today. Mm-hmm. And he was like, "Oh, we're doing the bracket game." I'm like, let's hope so.
I mean, last year, of course, we had Jimmy Rave fall prey to travel issues, and then we lost another big portion of JLIT weekend, aka the JLIT Hotel. So we're hoping that Thursday we get off scot-free this year, because that was doubled up on Thursday. So
I'll never forget that hotel situation.
Yeah, neither will I. As I had to sleep in the America's Best Value Inn, aka the crappiest hotel in Cleveland.
I was one of the people that called them up, and it was like a week or so beforehand. I was like, "Oh, I want to book a hotel room for this day." They're like, "Oh, we're sold out." What? Yeah. Like, I know JLIT's popular, but what?
I think it was another event last year, so I just it'll all be figured out. We got after parties for both nights, so Nax night 1, night 2, Funhouse. So
which I think is what it was last year.
Yeah, or no, that was Mahal's last year.
Mahal's, that's right.
Too, but
it seems like
same difference.
Well, yeah, Funhouse has replaced Mahal's in that aspect, but I think what was it? Instead, it was one of those things because when I called and tried to get a hotel room, they're like, "Oh, we're sold out." So I got a hotel room somewhere else. So when everything was going down, everybody was like, "Oh my God, like we have to find a hotel room. We got to go back to the America's Best." I'm like, I got a hotel room.
Yeah, that's probably your best move you've ever had in your life.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this year you were at my hotel room. I'm not doing a hotel this year.
Oh, no, that's not a bad call either.
Yeah, new move and everything, so it's like I'd rather just stay at home.
Makes sense.
So, like I said, going into the bracket, Colin Delaney versus Cheech. Former tag team champion, still a tag team far as we know. And could this be the beginning of the end of To Infinity and Beyond?
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe the No Consequences kids got their hands on the brackets and drew them up this way. Because, it seems like, in JLIT, a lot of times, those first round matches, those tag teams go up against each other, and it's a question of who's going to win. Because you look at tag teams, and it comes down to both these guys know each other's ins and outs, so it comes down to who knows the other person better. Is Colin going to be able to anticipate what Cheech does? Can Cheech anticipate what Colin does,
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's not say breakup just yet. Let's see how post-match these guys act, and, obviously, they would both like to be moving on, but at some point, to win JLIT, it's a singles tournament. They would have to beat each other at some point, so why not just get out of the way in the first round?
Yeah, someone has to move to the next round.
Yep.
The only time in history, I think we've only seen one match that's ended in a draw. It was a double count out.
Oh.
And that...
Was Dave the Potato the ref?
No, it was the year that I won the bracket, too. It was 2013, I want to say. I'm trying to remember. I want to say Whitmer and Dickinson, maybe? But no, I don't know. I'd have to look that up, and I'm not going to do that right now. But it's happened, but I don't know. I figured both of these are great competitors. They would want to move on to the next round.
Yeah. That's just the way both those guys are wired.
So if you were going to pick between the two?
I think Colin's a little more crafty, so I'm going to say Colin Delaney if you're forcing me to pick.
I'm going to have to agree with you on that one, because I feel like, granted, he hasn't been in singles competition for a while, but Colin was a guy that was always hungry for the win, even as a singles competitor. So him going back to it,
I think he's had greater singles success as well, so he knows how to get the job done in a singles environment.
So moving on to the next match, Gringo Loco versus Laredo Kid. This is already going to be an insane match. Just absolute crazy. It's going to be Loco.
Yes, two of the best luchadors in the world, mixing it up. To be honest with you, AIW is to thank for Gringo Loco kind of making a comeback. He was a big fixture on the Chicago independent scene and then kind of faded away, and then, he came back to prominence in AIW.
Yeah.
And he beat death to come back again.
Yeah.
And Gringo Loco, the ace of base, probably one of the best luchador bases in the world, for sure. And of course, Laredo Kid, this was one of the guys that John Thorne and Chandler were super excited to book right around the time when we did the next episode show. And Laredo's been a fixture of the roster ever since.
It seemed like, this is from my point of view, I'm not big into luchador wrestling, but Laredo Kid really seemed to blow up right after coming into it. Maybe not right after, but still it was. Yeah,
it was around that time. He did all the AIW stuff, and then based off AIW, he ended up getting some more bookings. So it was definitely, AIW has been a launch pad for a lot of guys. So it helped Laredo out for sure.
So between these two, who do you have winning?
Gotta go with the ace of base, my man, Gringo Loco, coming out to Mr. Miyagi.
I'm gonna have to go with Laredo. I've always been entertained by Laredo, and I think the thing I do love more is the out of the ring stuff that we hear or have heard in the AIW podcast of, Little Caesars and his fans and all this kind of stuff. If Laredo Kid is going to get lost somewhere JLIT weekend, I think is another big question.
It is. There's a lot of construction going around the Mount Carmel area. There's a Cavs game going on Friday night. Maybe Laredo is who we lose.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that's going to wind up with, because it seems, obviously ever since LeBron's come back, we've had a game at least one night, and normally I want to say it is night one. It
always is night one, because it's an uphill battle. A 2-night tournament is an uphill battle from a promoter standpoint and John's standpoint for sure. In Chandler's when he was live as well. Night one is hard because a lot of people think that they can skip night one with no consequence and just, no pun intended by the way.
That's what I was thinking.
They can skip with no consequence, just go to night two, get all the action, see the winner crowned. And it's hard because not everybody's a completist. not everybody needs to see both shows. And then, like, let's say the Cavs are playing. Well, someone might choose to watch the Cavs as opposed to go to JLIT because they can get the JLIT DVD or the VOD. So it's an uphill battle for sure.
I think last year might have been night 2, but
no, last year was night. I think it was night 1 last year, but they had a road game.
I was looking at my Facebook memories. I thought it was someone had said like, "Oh,
I know."
night
1. I know night 1 in 2015 went up against. Well, night 1 in 2015 went up against the Cavs and Warriors. I know that because there's a great story about Biggins yelling at all the kids to take down some of the extra chairs because the draw wasn't very good.
Yeah.
And so then 2016 was the year I wrestled Tracy, and I don't think they had a game. I don't think they had a game that night. I think that was that was one where they were off. And then last year, I'm almost certain they played the Raptors last year.
We played the Raptors was either 15 or 16.
It might have been 16 because I might have remembered Josh Alexander being very upset about the Raptors losing.
Josh and Johnny was the matchup.
Yes, okay.
Because it was kind of ironic. Raptors won, but Gargano won the match. And it was right around the same time. I think we started the match where I yelled to Johnny what the score was.
That's great.
And I think there might have been a couple times that like he asked me, he's like, "What's the score?" I tell him. So yeah, I know we're gonna have that now, and that does suck. And I keep
and it works out better. I mean, obviously, by the time this is recorded, the game will have been over. But it works out better if the Cavs win Game 5, and then it's less of a win or go home situation for Game 6. Like it would help out. Fans would be less on the fence. But if it's a loser go home and it's at home, it could be it could be a little bit of a tough night for the AIW draw.
Yeah. So next we have Andrew Everett and Jody Fleisch. And I'm not real familiar with Fleisch. I'd said that before for the last show that he did. But holy fuck. Like what he pulled last show is just absolutely amazing. Of breaking his leg or whatever exactly it happened, and still performing, still coming up after the show, signing autographs, taking pictures, and then going to the hospital. That's just...
So Jody... I have two things for Jody. For one, what he did that show was amazing because, little known fact, I actually had to drive Jody around the rest of that weekend. So Saturday we did Powerbomb TV's live stream in Philadelphia, and it was very clear very quickly to me that he was likely not going to be able to wrestle once I saw his leg bleeding in a hotel lobby. But to Jody's credit, he really didn't have a choice because he was getting flown back out of Toronto. So we went there, and then we drove from Philadelphia to Hamilton for Alpha 1. And man, what a trip that was. And Jody was just awesome the whole time, and good spirits the whole time, and was really upset that he couldn't do the match up to his standards. The other thing I have about Jody Fleisch, so I use Jody Fleisch with an explainer like I use Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler was a pioneer and an innovator in women's MMA, and by the time it came for her to be properly recognized, she wasn't at the top of her level in MMA anymore that she was. Obviously, she's found pro wrestling, and she's very damn good at that. But Jody was one of the innovators on the British independent scene. Without Jody Fleisch, Will Ospreay, Marty Scurll, Zack Sabre Jr., guys like that don't exist.
Yeah.
Half of the independent guys you see from the UK do not exist without Jody Fleisch. Guys like Jody Fleisch and Johnny Storm, they are the ones that made British wrestling relevant again. British wrestling before those guys started and kind of set the world on fire, British wrestling was literally just parody WWF shows.
Yeah.
They would have fake Kane, fake Stone Cold, and it was a parody.
Yeah.
And then those guys came along and, they changed the game. Because for the longest time, British wrestling was a big deal, World of Sport, and then when World of Sport got canceled, it became a joke. And then those guys started bringing it back to prominence, and obviously now this next generation of British independent wrestlers has really risen to stock, and it's amazing to see Jody still able to perform at the level he can. I mean, the stuff he does, the shooting star presses, the 720 DDT, it's amazing. So that's like some background on Jody Fleisch for you.
Okay.
He was also one of the first UK guys to get brought to the US to wrestle independent and on the independents.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, back in the glory days of CZW, when they used to actually draw people, Jody was one of the names they brought in. He was in Best of the Best against Johnny Kidd. They would bring him over. Chikara would bring him over. And realistically, like I said, if it wasn't for a guy like him, British wrestling would be nothing right now.
So Jody Fleisch versus Andrew Everett.
Yeah, Andrew Everett, a late replacement for Facade, who had an international tour.
Which awesome for him.
Yeah, great for Facade. But AEW was lucky. Andrew Everett was open that weekend. TNA Tag Team Champion Andrew Everett, or Impact Wrestling, whatever you want to call it now. And man, you can't mesh two high-flying styles together any better than these two guys. If the prior Lucha match doesn't get you, then what the stuff they do in this match probably will too.
Yeah, and if Andrew Everett was a complete replacement, no type of switch-ups, him and Facade and Fleisch would have been great too. But I feel like we got someone who really could fill Facade's shoes.
Oh, for sure. And I think this is one of the best matches of night one for sure.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Especially, I feel like this bracket as a whole is kind of loaded. Yeah,
realistically, I think the bracket, this bottom portion, but also the whole bracket itself is something. I think each bracket, I mean, and you can say what you may, but like each bracket kind of has a different feel to it. Like the bracket that's got Lewis and I, and it's got Guido, and it's got Tom, and it's got Tracy. That feels like a kind of like, you know, chain wrestling kind of style of bracket. Whereas then, you know, your Matt Justice and Ethan Page bracket, along with Gangrel and Donst, you know, that bracket is kind of got a sports entertainment feel to it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the bottom side of the bracket, of course, is your Flyers bracket. So it's kind of like each portion of the bracket has a feel to it.
I never noticed this till I was recording the intro, and I wanted to double check the AIW email. The fact that on your graphic it says Lewis Linden versus Frankie Flynn.
They got a new one. The email was wrong when they released the actual card itself, like the match graphic itself on Twitter. It's proper, but I don't know how they messed that up.
Yeah, I think I got that.
Derek Direction sent that to me, laughing.
I didn't notice it until, like I said, doing the intro, because I think I got the graphic that I put on Wrestling Cheers Facebook page. I think I got that when the original graphic was released, and I never noticed it.
Yeah, no, it is not Frankie Flynn taking on Lewis Linden. It'll be me. Frankie's not pulling double duty.
I think it's one of the things, because the match that was announced right before that was Frankie's match.
Yeah, I think that's probably just graphics department, you know, got a little mixed up.
Yeah. So then we have a rematch of sorts.
It's the rematch of the year.
Marty Jannetty versus Joey Janela.
We never picked winners on the last match, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Good call. Who do you got?
Jody Fleisch.
Jody Fleisch. I'll go Everett.
Okay.
I'll really go Everett. Just mix it up a little bit. So then we do have the rematch. Joey Janela versus Marty Jannetty. This, the way that I described people, I think when we were talking about when I was talking with Kick Out It too, is like the first person announced for JLIT was Gangrel, the last person was Marty Jannetty.
Yeah. That was done
fucking
purposely.
Amazing.
That was done very purposely. I can tell you that.
Well, of course, I think it's because what I've always heard, like you start big and end big.
Yeah.
And then it's like the filling can go whatever way you want.
Yeah. Obviously, you know, there's with 24 spots that fill, you want to start big, end big, throw a couple of surprises in the middle. Yeah. And then, you know, obviously out of those 24 guys in the first round, or guys or girls or little people.
Or monkeys.
Monkeys, how dare I forget. You know, however that is, you know, however you fill that bracket out, you know, there's probably going to be about 10 AIW regulars in there no matter what. Yeah. And then you've kind of got some fantasy guys, and, you know, that's one of the cool things about having a 24-man tournament or a 24 individual tournament is that if you have a 24 individual tournament, there's so many options. Yeah. And it allows you to bring a guy like Marty Jannetty in.
It was a way to end, and I think this was, as soon as he was announced, everybody wanted to see Marty Jannetty, Joey Janela, so...
Part two,
to get that one more time. I never seen the original, but I could only imagine.
It's a spectacle,
yeah.
And it'll likely be a spectacle come Friday night.
I'm hoping it's the main event, but...
We'll see.
I know. I'm not saying you're going to tell me. Between Marty Jannetty and Joey Janela.
Bad boy for life.
Bad boy. I can't deny Janela. I mean, he is still the Intense champion.
He is. Reigning, defending, as Bruce Buffer would say.
So, I would figure he has what it takes to move on, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him in second half.
I'm going Janela on that one.
Let's take a quick second to talk about your match and actually your bracket as a whole.
Okay.
Because you have, we're not going to get into like the match breakdown and everything, but you have your match versus Lewis Linden, and also, like I said, in that same bracket, you have Frankie Flynn versus Filthy Tom Lawler.
Mm-hmm.
We could very well see in the second round you two in the ring again.
I mean, we'll see. Back in February, he broke his arm on my head. Last month, I happened to give him a swirly and then throw him halfway across the ring. He then busted me open with the steel plate in his arm. So obviously, where Tom and I always think that we're done fighting each other, maybe it's one of those that's just never going to end. And yet again, JLIT, we get the chance possibly again. But, before I talk about Tom, obviously Lewis Linden is one of the best guys in AIW, and he's been there since the day I stepped foot in the AIW training school. So my focus is on the captain of the ship first and foremost.
Because you are Big Match Dom.
If you guys want to call me that, that's fine. I mean, I love John Cena, so any comparison I can draw to the biggest wrestling draw in history, I'll take it, and I will fight that to the grave, that John Cena's had a longer run on top than anybody else. So in my book, he is the biggest draw in wrestling history. But no, any comparison to Cena, I'll take, and overall, but Lewis Linden has kind of been the heart and soul of AIW since I've been around. He really has. The captain of the ship thing, as it's kind of turned into the pirate thing for the reasons that it has. That wasn't what the captain of the ship meant at first, and it still, in my mind, isn't. He's the captain of the AIW ship. He's what keeps it sailing. He's what keeps it moving. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, if there was ever a day where Lewis wasn't there, I would hope that I would be one of those guys that would be the captain of the ship. In his absence, to keep the ship moving, keep it in the right direction. I know Thorne said it on just about any podcast, and every podcast, the fact that Lewis Linden isn't everywhere is criminal. Lewis Linden can wrestle any style, and he might be one of the most underrated wrestlers on the independents today.
And he doesn't seem to wrestle many places.
No, and that's the thing. Yeah. I don't know whether it's just not lack of chances or what, but I mean, Lewis Linden is one of the best, like I said, one of the best workers I've seen, and obviously I do a lot of traveling, and I keep a very busy schedule, and Lewis deserves more chances than he gets, for sure. Like, Lewis gets spotlighted in AIW, and sometimes I feel like that's the only spotlight he gets, and to be honest with you, it's a damn shame, because a guy as good as Lewis Linden should be everywhere.
Yeah, and I think he's a guy that I've heard very rarely little bad about.
No, just a great human being, so he checks that marker off pretty highly as well. I mean, and obviously it's kind of a battle of, my varied submission game versus his Dragon Sleeper. And we'll come down Friday and we'll just see the better man's going to win on Friday,
Yeah. So the only match of this weekend that's been announced that we have yet to speak about, mainly because I forgot, because I was doing more of the bracket stuff, but we have the only Day 2 match for JLIT officially. That's I believe it's a championship match.
It is.
Nick Gage versus Colt Cabana for the AIW Absolute Championship.
One of Nick Gage's last tests before a possible absolution date with Gauntlet for the Gold winner Tracy Williams. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Spared no expense. And Colt Cabana, one of the best independent wrestlers, quite possibly of all time, versus Nick Gage, a first time ever match, which is kind of crazy in its own right. Mm-hmm. That both these guys have been around since like 1999, and they somehow haven't wrestled. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously Nick Gage, all business, all serious, MDK, Eastern Bloc Hate Club, gang affiliated, versus Colt Cabana, who is kind of about the ha-has, but Colt Cabana, when he needs to go, can go. And you look back at those 05-06 Homicide feud in Ring of Honor. Obviously, he knows how to channel a dark place. So I'm real curious to see this match.
He had a match recently in AIW that I think was supposed to be more serious than haha. I'm trying to remember what it was off the top of my head.
It wasn't MJF.
No, it was not MJF. It was
father and son back in the same building again.
Oh God. Get Grandpapa Hales in too to complete the family tree.
Yeah, right. I think it was probably that Homicide match he had back at JLIT 2 years ago.
That could be it.
Yeah, I think it was that.
Because I remember Cabana actually talking about how he was trying to be a little bit more serious for the match. Like maybe it started out a little comedy, but
I'm almost certain it's Homicide. But almost everything he's done kind of post that has been less serious. The Bunkhouse Bucks of the world, or I'm sorry, Bunkhouse Kaplan.
Bunkhouse Kaplan.
That's the big question of the weekend. Does Kaplan show up? Like, we don't know. I have not checked. I have not looked at any social media tags. Does Kaplan show up?
My biggest hope is somewhere in day 2, teaming with Don. That's all I want to see.
Team safety first, huh?
And then maybe get Rex Brody in there. That's my dream trios.
We'll see.
I have my safety vest sitting behind you.
Perfect.
So
there you go. Well, we will see. But yeah, no, Nick and Colt will be a very interesting match. Just like I said, because of its two kind of guys with the most pedigreed indie careers at this point right now.
Yeah.
So,
and I think with Gage too, he's a guy that's also shown that he's more than what he's known for. Like, yeah, he can do death matches. Yeah, he can actually do wrestling that people weren't expecting him to do. But I'm wondering if we could see a little bit of. I want to see a little bit of comedy from him, but obviously see a little bit of seriousness.
Yeah.
See how they can blend.
We'll see how they play off of each other. We'll see how the two styles play for sure.
All right, that's pretty much JLIT weekend in a nutshell. But before we go, I do want to ask you, just much like everybody else who's been on these past 2 shows, is your thoughts and feelings on this weekend as a whole, being, JLIT and Chandler Biggins Memorial Tag Team Tournament and the people that we're memorializing.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to, I really never got the chance to meet JT. I've always heard of JT.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always, remember Cleveland All Pro stuff when I was younger and reading, PWIs and stuff. So I can't really speak on JT. I just know that without JT, what we have today wouldn't be here. So anything to honor JT and his memory is more than something that I'm proud to be a part of. For Chandler, it's tough, for sure. It's pretty much a little under a year over his passing. We're almost to a year, which it doesn't seem like that. It seems like it's been so much longer.
Yeah.
And man, to be honest with you, Chandler was like, I always assimilated Chandler to be like an uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have a good relationship with my father, so like I don't need a second father figure in my life. But Chandler was like a strong uncle figure to me, and he was someone I leaned on. And a story that doesn't really get told much is one day I got a phone call while I was at training that I had to take, and it was my sister, and she's co-signed on one of my student loans. And at the time, I was having a very difficult time paying my student loans because I just got a new job. And he saw that I was outside for about 20 minutes, and he pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, is everything okay?" And I just told him, and he said, "Hey, don't worry about training dues for the next couple months. Get your finances in order." He's like, "And then we'll catch up after." And that was the kind of person that Chandler was. Chandler was just the biggest hearted guy in the world. Mm-hmm. He wanted to help you out. And man, just one of the guys that lit up a room when he came in. And it was one of those things that when I found out that Chandler had passed, it devastated me. I didn't cry that night. I cried at the funeral, of course, and then there's been 2 other times where I cried, and when I thought about Chandler. One was the day after the funeral. I was at the Dynamite Cup, and I saw that Joe Sposto, the head of a commentator, put a banner up that said, it's something along the lines of, "We miss you, Biggins," or something along those lines. And I hadn't seen it when I came out. And it wasn't until I was leaving the building that I saw it. Mm-hmm. I broke down at that point. And it was weird because I was actually riding back with Joe that night. And the second time was last year at Scenic City Invitational. I wore my Chandler Biggins shirt underneath my geese hop for the picture and when I came out. And Rex Tycoon from Twitter was surprisingly wearing the same shirt. And we grabbed hands and we kind of hugged. And the moment didn't hit me there. But on Monday night when I got home from Chattanooga, I was literally sitting on my steps finishing laundry, and I rolled through a picture of that, and I just started crying.
Yeah.
So every day I miss Chandler, and I'm sad that Chandler can't see the success of these no consequences kids are having early in their career. I'm sad that he can't see the success Britt Baker's having.
Oh yeah.
I'm sad that he can't see the success that Frankie Flynn is having. I'm sad that he can't see the way that Derek Direction went from somebody who was afraid to talk to Chandler to somebody that is highly ingrained in AIW. I'm upset that he can't see Magnum CK make that AIW debut and be as popular as he already is with the crowd. I'm upset that he can't see Ethan Page in Japan. I'm upset that he can't see me doing all that I'm doing. I'm upset that he can't see everybody's successes. But I also know that he's watching all of us from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. He's proud of all of his kids because we were his kids. And I know that Chandler is proud of all of us in our own ways, and I know that he's always looking out for us. I always know that no matter what, even if there's nobody in the seats, there's always one person watching when I wrestle, and I know it's him for sure. So I always take solace in that, and I take solace in the fact that this weekend, we're going to honor him because he loved JLIT. And, he was also the only person that wouldn't stay at the JLIT hotel because he would go to all the after parties. He would do all the crazy stuff, and it'd be like 4 a.m. I heard, and he would go back home and go to sleep and then come back the next day. Yeah, because that's just Chandler. He didn't like sleeping in the hotels. So I think that he'd be happy to see the Weird World show up to every training session before the tournament in his name. And I think he'll be extremely happy watching from upstairs as the Chandler Biggins Memorial Tag Tournament goes down on Saturday.
There's been, I know, twice in my history with Biggins, obviously post, where I couldn't wait to start to be a part of the Biggins chant, because I know, much like you, I didn't really know much about JT. So when we do the JT Lightning chant, I'm not gonna say that it doesn't mean as much, because I feel somewhat similar to you. Of obviously, if it wasn't for JT, all this that we have now wouldn't be here. Mm-hmm. So I partake in the JT Lightning chants because I know he helped pave the road that I'm enjoying. But with Biggins, I knew it's he means something to me. He was a guy that felt either were the words that we shared or times that he'd hook me up with information or whatever it was. And when we did the Chandler Biggins chant at Absolution, and I remember going into NXT, I was like, I'm doing a Chandler Biggins chant somewhere tonight. Yeah. And soon as obviously Johnny puts the focus on everybody in the balcony with the AIW, and I'm like, this is it.
And then Dave the Potato ruined it. Fucking potato.
Can we get to the point where we just don't mention that? Because I know we all think it. We all think it.
I refused to shake the potato's hand for the next 2 weeks when I saw him for that. I said, way to ruin a great moment, not only for Johnny, but everybody else.
Yeah, that... I think Potato listens from time to time.
He does.
So
if you're listening, Dave, I'm still mad at you.
Yeah, at first I didn't think it was him. Then someone's like, "Oh no, that was him yelling." I'm like,
"Oh no,
really?
It was." I hope that your car sales go down this week if that's the case.
Or at least buy yourself a new car.
Correct.
All right. That's pretty much a wrap on the weekend. Please.
Well, one thing I think I can do for you too, real quick, is obviously with my position at the kind of AIW training center, I can kind of give you a little bit of background on the 4 individuals that will be debuting, if you would like.
I think we got a little bit from Weird Body on that episode.
Oh, come on. Weird Body's barely there on those days.
Okay.
No offense. Weird Body won't come... They're a separate class still. Those guys are still in the beginner's class. I mean, he knows Wes Barkley super well, but I'll just give you a quick synopsis of kind of all 4 guys.
Okay.
We'll start off with TKD. TKD kind of takes after a Mike Bailey type, legitimate Taekwondo black belt, looking to kind of bring that karate style into the ring on Saturday. I'm
just waiting to see you two in the ring now.
We'll see. I mean, maybe in due time. Ryder Reed is kind of a dark character. He's going to be trying to teach people how to embrace their inner evil.
Yeah, he's the only one that I know absolutely nothing about.
Yeah, so I know he's got some Facebook fan pages and stuff that's got some promo videos that will give you a little bit more background on him. Then, of course, Zach Thomas, recently renamed from Silas Morgan. You might have seen him at some shows around Mega, things like that. He is just kind of this brooding powerhouse, the man at war. Going to be looking to bring war to all 3 of those other guys in the match. And then the one that probably everybody knows.
Yeah.
WES, Wes Barkley, former AIW podcast guest. You've probably seen him doing any kind of crazy odd job around the AIW venue on Friday nights, sometimes bartending, sometimes running those meet and greet lines, but... If you don't know, his father, very famous rodeo clown, who is one of the most profitable rodeo clowns of all time, went from the rodeo to rodeo, and funded Wes's way through the ARW Wrestling Academy. So old Wesley Presley going to try to put on those blue suede shoes on Saturday and dance his way to the W.
See, that was something that Weird Body did not tell us.
Oh, yeah.
And I would figure with Weird Body's background, that was something he would have known.
Yeah, Weird Body, hot at the carny, says they're not real carny, says he was a real carny.
Well, even Jock, too. Jock called him out on that.
Well, we'll see come Saturday.
It's always fun, too, with it being the JLIT weekend, for the most part, where we have these training matches and get to introduce them, because it's that thing of coming to the shows and you see these people doing the odd jobs and everything. Mm-hmm. Like I remember seeing, Eddie Only and a bunch of others. I think PB Smooth too, because I remember seeing him.
Best security guard you ever had?
Yeah, I remember hearing a lot about him after seeing him so much, and then Biggins of all people, he was like, "Oh yeah, he's debuting next. The guy that always does it." Or yeah. And then obviously Enzo was really big at the time, because every time he talked about PB Smooth, he said he's 7 feet tall and you can't teach that.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Oh God. So okay, that will wrap it for the weekend.
Sounds good.
The weekend as a whole. Any final thoughts or last minute plugs before we go, where people can find you and all that kind of other shit?
Twitter and Instagram at DGreenyBC. Otherwise, no real other plugs per se. I guess I could give you guys kind of like a quick schedule. Maybe I'll spoil an ARW date that you guys don't know of just yet, but let's see. Next Friday I'll be at Colossal Con for Mega Championship Wrestling, cosplaying in some way, shape, or form. Saturday, UXWA back in Brooklyn, Ohio, defending the UXWA title against Trey Lamar. The weekend after that, I will be at Nova Pro's Commonwealth Cup taking on Eddie Kingston first round. Day 2, hopefully with a W. Moving on to bigger and better things. And then actually, the 10th, I will be defending my Subgraps Bone Storm title against Mance Warner. Friends of the show, Kick Out of 2, Jesse. I know.
Friends of the show, too.
Yep, they're friends of the show, so give them a quick plug here.
And also, too, the thing that I do love about Powerbomb is the fact that the 2 promotions you just mentioned, I can follow up on more, because knowing 2 of the people behind each, at least one each.
Yeah.
What's his name from Nova Pro? Mike, yeah. Because it's been all him. He used to come up to JLITs.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that's where I first met him.
He wants to make a return. He told me at the last Nova Pro show he needs to make a return to ARW soon. So I have those 2, and then the week after that I'll be at PWCS, based out of Alton, Illinois, kind of the St. Louis area. The week after that, then, I will be back guarding my good friend Stokely Hathaway at Evolve Wrestling in New York and Boston. But I'm going to give another plug for that weekend, too. If you're not interested in Evolve, go out to Lafayette, Indiana. Check out the Dynamite Cup. ARW trainee Chase Oliver will be in the tournament. As well, just a great cause, as all the money is a complete benefit to foster kids.
Okay.
So it helps that out. And then I'll drop an ARW date on you guys that you guys might not know about if Thorne gets mad at me. So it'll be at 6/22. We'll be making our return to Men Are on the Lake.
Okay.
In Music Links. So that will be a full weekend for me. And from that point, I think that's all I'll plug, because no one's going to follow me past the noise. But yeah, 6/22, Music Links. Be ready, guys. So I've seen some prelims on that card and a lot of fan favorites on that one.
We're definitely looking forward to it. And before we go, since I don't want to take the time to edit, because this is going to have to try to be up within the next hour and a half after this right now. So that's how quick that I go. So I'm going to end this show. Of course, you can follow myself at Heavyset330. You can find the show at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Facebook.com/Wrestling Cheers, Twitter.com/Wrestling Cheers, and Instagram.com/Wrestling Cheers. Email, if you so choose to desire, WrestlingCheers@gmail.com. You can find all our merch at whatamaneuver.net. And please, wherever you're listening to this, rate, review, and subscribe. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, and Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com. And I actually forgot to do this on the last episode. Apologize to everybody here, but check out all the other shows on the Trending Topics Network, such as All Beer Inside, What's on Fight, Old School at the Movies, and Chill, and the 450 podcast. And then Check out all our podcast friends, such as the Chris Clem's Cavscast, Wingcast, a Wingman podcast with Steve Guy, Let the Hate Flow Through You with Jeremy Shear and El Hordano Diablo, Pod Van Dam, The Road Home from Wrestling, Thrift Store Jobber, Rebel Life Media, NEO Sports Insiders, and the official graphic designer of Wrestling Cheers. That's Moy Boy Designs. And of course, we're on the Trending Topics Network. You already should know that. That will do it for us here on Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name, even if you like collecting bones for a living. Later.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot.